How you all going? It's Jai, that Aussie metal guy here with Crannk.com, and it gives me great pleasure to have a chat with Ivar Bjørnson, guitarist for one of my favourite all-time bands, and I know a lot of other people, Enslaved. Thank you very much, mate.
Hey, excellent. Good to be here, man.
Absolute pleasure, man. Utgard, dude, 15th studio album for Enslaved, and after 30 years, you guys are just as powerful and relevant as the first release to now. It's amazing. It's an absolutely amazing album. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Very glad to hear it.
I love everything about it. Everything about it. Can I ask first though? Can you tell me a little bit about the themes that help influence the songwriting for this album?
Yeah, we've been dealing with Norse mythology for all these years, and on the last album on E, there was a particular myth that we were dealing about was how the gods came to build this enormous wall around Asgard to protect them from attacks from the outside. To be more specific, this outside would be Utgard, the stronghold of the giants. The giants are the primeval beings in Norse mythology. They're the first ones, and the gods have never been able to control them in a sense. You know, they're chaotic, volatile, sort of a equivalent to the unconscious part of the mind. You know, it's full of ideas and creativity, but also madness and violence and all these things that the gods fear. So on this album, we sort of turned outside from the outside to look, and it describes a journey through these lands, a sort of a going into the shadows and see what is there, which is a part of the human experience that I guess is being left out in the modern world, of the modern sort of Christian westernized world where everything is about safety and safety and order and so on, and it's not doesn't seem to be doing us all that good, to be honest, and we're doing giving a tribute to looking in the shadows and what is outside of the known world.
Yeah, and I totally get you, dude. Like I know recently there's been this huge Viking about that side, but for me it was always Norse mythology, and I love the works of like Neil Gaiman and his book Norse Mythology, and then what he does with American Gods. Norse mythology has always captivated me, not only because of bands like Enslaved that have kind of introduced that to me many years ago, but you know the whole stories behind it, as you were talking about the giants, and I actually know that story you're talking about. It's so interesting, the Norse mythology side of things. You could never get old of material with that, that's for sure.
That is true, and especially since that's the thing about this mythology, and it's created by people. You know, it's about people. It's not made to create power structures. It's not like you have to be a ordained priest to have an opinion about it or discuss it. You can put your own interpretation, create your own universe in that mythological universe. And I think that's something that's lost now, that the alternatives that we have is pretty much, it's either religion or sort of nothing in a sense. And I don't
nothing.
Yeah.
I know, for me it'd be the old gods, the ones that came before, like Norse mythology. To me, that's the original gods, the old gods that started it. Everyone kind of after that's kind of just tried to follow in the shadows of the ones before. Can I ask about Fires in the Dark, Ivar? That chant at the start, can you tell me a little bit about what roughly what that's being translated to in English for me?
It is a poem about the origin, about the creation of the universe. More specifically, the giant Ymir, Ymir, which is the first being that came out of the primeval source, you know, where fire and ice met, and out of this source came this giant And then it's describing, in classical mythological language, how his hair became the forests, and his brow the mountains, and so on. It's a beautiful poem, and it also something about it just fitted really well as the opening for this journey into that primeval land.
Yeah, and for people who are unaware, that story that you're talking about is kind of the start of the gods as well, Norse mythology and Odin and everything like that. Because I know the story you're talking about. That's kind of at the start of the Norse mythology book. That one, it's a great story as well.
Absolutely, it's a wonderful story, and it was the last thing actually that was made for the album. We've done everything on the album, and then as the last add-on was added, it was Ivar, our drummer, who said we should have this. It was already part of the lyrics. We should just do this as a choir and just sing that to make it even more, give that opening start primeval feeling to it, and sing it. So it was done in like one take with all. We were simply stunned. There's three of them are singers in the band. Keyboardist, bass player, and a drummer. But then me and the other guitarists they wanted us to be part of the choir also, and we were totally shocked when we were able to sing in tune with them. There must have been something magical about those verses.
It is. It's an amazing start to the album, and it kind of sets the fore of what's to come, and the singles that you had after, the Jettegryta one and the Homebound and Ursultan and that. There's such great tracks, man. But I want to talk about Storms of Utgard. I love that, and I love the riffs all through the album. The guitar playing is just spot on, dude. And I love, like, at the end of Storms of Utgard, I think it's around 3:30, that riff that kind of kicks in. I could sit there and listen to that over and over again. The end of Storms of Utgard as it leads into Distant Seasons. It just sounds so bloody good.
Yeah, it does. I love the leads that Ice Dale has put on this album. I made sure on the last album I was really happy about it, but I did have one complaint to myself as a songwriter, and I was like, there was not enough room for Ice Dale leads because they're just so bloody good. So this time around, make sure there's room for leads, and
Yeah.
I did that. He was even a little bit worried. He's like, "Whoa, that's a lot of lead room, man." I'm like, "Yeah, sorry, you have to go home and make those fantastic leads."
It sounds so good. What was it like doing all the guitar tracking and everything for this?
It was really cool. I'm really happy about the riffing and the way that we've split the voicing between the two guitars. It was quite demanding in one way because they are so open, a lot of the riffings, that it's not a lot of room for, let's say, um, errors and so on. So we really had to rehearse a lot, both me and Estelle. Um, I guess in some sense it's a little bit easier for me, since I'm writing it, and then I get to
Yep.
spend a lot of time and sort of build them from the molecules that make them up, in a sense, up until the finished riff. For Iceland, he told me it was the most challenging album that he's done guitar wise, but I think it came out really well.
Oh, it's so good. I've had a really, really good dive into this album, and I keep picking up different moments, and I love putting this album in and going on a journey. And the way you set it up with Fires in the Dark, and we're saying with that chant, and all the way through this album, it's got, that extreme black and metal vibes that you're so known for, but also these prog vibes that come through and just really accentuate this journey you guys have enslaved or created with this Utgard album.
Yeah, we really, it's really fun to create music within this universe, that we have all these albums and all these various ways of sounding that we can go. I know when I'm writing that we can go full blast, being inspired by sort of old black metal. We can go into doomier territory. We can go mellow and sort of more subtle. It's really great to have that, all those different colors that we're able to use when making the music. It's an easy. I think I it sounds cheesy, but it's an easy band to make music for after all these years. It's really inspirational.
Yeah, and what was the recording and production process like then? Because I think it was what 2019 you started recording or something like that for this.
Yeah, it started writing the album in November 2018,
Yep.
and then I guess we started working with the material New Year, like directly after New Year 2019. So it's in parallel, like writing music, writing lyrics, going in the rehearsal room, working out the songs, and all that kept going. And then for October 1st, we went into the studio in Bergen. We have, between us in the band, we have 3 studios. We have one. Eva, the drummer, has a really like high-end, proper studio where we record the drums and yeah, pretty much like all the basic stuff is recorded there. And then me and Ice Dale, the other guitarist, we have our own studios. I guess mine is the least professional one. It's more it's pretty much a studio for writing music in. But I record like the effects and extra guitars and the keys that I do. There, and also Håkon, our keyboard player, he goes in my studio and does a lot of the keyboards there. And then after having recorded for most of October and November, we took all the files and went to Sweden, to Örebro, the Jens Bogren in Fascination Street Studios, like we've done since 2010. And yeah, it's just a fantastic way of working, I think, because we gather all this material in our own studio, and then it becomes very, yeah, it's very us in a sense, but that for good and for bad in a sense. And that's why we need Jens at the final stage to go in and sort of structure it and make it all coherent and stick together. So it's a dream process for me, I have to say. I I know we should be thinking that at some point we should try different ways of doing it, because that would give it a fresh edge. But on the other hand, it's just working so damn well that I hope we'll be doing the same for a long time.
Yeah, well, it is working so damn well. This album is unreal, and it just sticks with me. Yeah, I played it tonight a whole heap of times, and I stopped, and it just keeps going over in my head. And that Urujulton song, that is really really cool, and I love the way the film clip goes on that you've done for that as well.
Yeah, that was that song was sort of long time coming. I have that. That's really something that I love, that kind of music from Killing Joke and the German bands, the cosmic music that we called krautrock, I guess, to piss off the Germans, like always. But they called it cosmic music, which is nicer. Kraftwerk and all those bands. Been big fan of that, but it really never found a moment where we could integrate it into the music. Um, and now finally there was something in the writing process just said like, okay, that vibe, I want to get that into one song. I wrote it and sent it to the guys, and they all had the same reaction like I've had, like, okay, finally we're doing that. So we're super motivated going for. Grutle had an idea for lyrics that had been lying around for years and years, just waiting for the right song, Urjotun, which is it's about that first sort of tribe of giants that came after Ymir. Um, the first one that roamed Utgard long before the gods came about, and so on. The mountain giants and so on, which are basically described in mythology as, you would see a mountain range, just you would hear this thundering sound, and everything would just crack open, and this enormous being would just rise out of the ground, being a mountain giant, and just lay lay flat and everything around it as it was moving to its next layer or whatever. And this enormity that's described in these primeval creational tales, that force, that power, was what we tried to translate into the song. And then we worked with our friend David from Canada, who made the video. He was reading the lyrics, had lots of discussions, and then he came up with this amazing storyline. His interpretation of sort of what I when I see the video, I get a feeling that he's talking about how this, especially this nuclear energy and nuclear weapons and all that is sort of tapping into something that's more powerful than we're actually able to sort of control, in a sense. It has these uncontrollable and limitless amounts of power that is this is maybe likable to the giants in the mythology.
Yeah, man. And I wanted to ask too, I was watching your videos up you recently put up on YouTube, which I recommend everyone getting along and checking out about the artwork. That's some really cool artwork, eh? And it looks good, the painting, and it's really, really cool, eh? I'd recommend people getting along checking that one as well.
Absolutely. We're working with some wonderful people. Truls Espedal, the one that's made the front cover and all the artwork inside of the book. An album. He's amazing. We've been working with him since Monumention 2001. So we actually, one of these days, I was thinking, like, wow, we've been working with him for a long time now, and I realized outside of myself, Grutle and Icedahl, he's the one that's been a constant sort of factor in Enslaved for the longest, which is pretty incredible. He's been there longer than the drummer and the keyboard player. He's been there longer than the label, the management, everyone. So yeah, he's really a sixth member.
Yeah, and I also got a little smile when you were talking about Ivor on the drums now, because he was co-producing and you were saying, he's not enough. Get in there. That was really, really funny, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Now he got it was a bit of pressure. We told him, like, when Kato quits, like, either you step up and become the drummer in the band, or we're going to put the band on hiatus. So your choice, which I guess wasn't much of a choice. So I'm really glad. But now he seems to be really, really happy that he joined.
Yeah, and I suppose I'm not even 2020 is kind of buggered with shows and everything. You guys probably be looking to 2021, eh?
Yeah, we're actually doing some of the first shows again. As far as I know, with an audience, is happening in November 4th and 5th here in Norway.
Awesome.
We're allowed to do with 200 capacity in rather
Yep.
big venues. So it's going to be weird, everybody's going to be assigned the square on the ground. So it's going to be we're joking about that. Like, are we going to if people are standing at the back of the squares, we just like encourage them to go to the front of their square, like one tiny step ahead, and that's going to be a huge difference. But it's doesn't really matter, if it was 10 people, it would still be amazing. We have been touring constantly now since 95, and to get like a whole year where we're not allowed to tour has been, it gives us the itches. We want to get out there and play and put on a high energy show and connect with the people. So it doesn't matter if it's 200, if they're in a square, if they got to be seated, it doesn't matter. It's really a privilege to be able to go out there and play.
That's really good to hear, Ivor, that's started to open up, because October we're starting to get shows here again too. So it's great things are starting to open up again. It has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you about this album and Norse mythology, Ivor. Thank you very, very much for having a chat with me, mate.
Likewise, Dave. It's been a real pleasure.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you very much. Have a lovely night, Ivor.
You too. Have a good one. See ya.
Thank you.